Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. I am your host, Stacy Brown.
Peace and love, everybody, and happy Voters Day. I'm your co host, Niele Anderson, and today we're going to talk about it. We have 39 states, we have 53,000 elections that are happening today, and we want to know what's on the ballot. Stacy, how about cost of living, healthcare, immigration, education, voting rights, and most importantly, representation? So, we're going to talk about all of it, go all across the country today. So, I'm ready to get to it.
Well, we do have a couple of guests this morning, but first, our producer has, let's see what our producer has for
Mama,
us.
did you feel like he's the real deal?
Oh, definitely. I can put my life online for him.
You would put your life on the line?
Yes, because he did put his life online for me.
Incredible.
He did it.
Wait, how do you guys know each other?
I worked with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance in the fight against the debt crisis. This is a crisis that started in the early 2000s when Mayor Bloomberg inflated the value of a medallion from $200,000 to $1 million to bridge a budget deficit. Mamadou and I went on a hunger strike.
You guys both went on a hunger strike?
15 days.
No food for 15 days.
And then now you have to remember this. 9 people, 9 of my fellow brothers committed suicide.
I know. How much was your debt?
750,000. Whenever we go to City Hall, they were not listening. When the assemblymen joined, that's when the real fight started.
We won almost exactly what it is that we demanded from the beginning.
That's awesome.
And it has thus far erased $450 million in debt.
Wow.
We were given avocado. It never tastes so sweet.
Oh,
Never,
after
ever.
the strike was over.
After the strike was
November
over,
3rd, 2021.
that avocado, I will never forget.
Really?
Yeah.
And when we ate that avocado, I remember Mamadou getting up and shouting, "I have my life back."
I have my life back.
Mama, did you feel like he's the real deal?
Oh, definitely. I can put my life online for him.
Wow. I don't know if everyone is aware when he talked about the cost of a medallion, you can't operate a taxi, certainly in New York, without a medallion. A lot of these guys get sponsors to, it's almost like slavery, Lauren, right? They get these sponsors, and Bloomberg upped the medallion cost to $1 million, and they got to pay it off. They're basically working for a very small wage at that point because most of their earnings is going to paying off that debt.
Yeah, exactly. It's a situation where I think Mamdani has really sort of captured the heart of like the blue collar New Yorker. There was a video that came out, Ryan Grimm, who used to be at The Intercept and now is at something called Drop Site, I think. He put out a video this morning that showed Mamdani right after Trump had won, talking to voters out in the streets of New York. And the thing about Mamdani is a gigantic distance and drop off between the average everyday person and these political parties, because these political parties are run by corporate dollars. And so the disconnect is absolutely huge. And, anytime you see a foreign policy issue dominate a race, I don't care which foreign policy issue it may be, and have people talking about issues outside of the city that they don't have anything to do with trash collection or paving the roads, something's up. And there's just a lot of moneyed interest involved in New York, as everybody knows. The billionaires row exists in New York. That alone should be scary to a lot of people who are just average, everyday blue collar workers. But Mamdani has captured that by going to the clubs. He was at the club the other night, you saw. So
The
it's
ball
amazing.
crawl, yeah.
Yep.
I think that Mandami, just looking at that video, it's reminiscent to when we were introduced to Obama, and him being an organizer, in rural America, in Illinois, rolling up his sleeves, talking to the people, just being real personable with the average person. And he's giving you those feels. And it's beginning to catch awareness across the country. New York knows about him, but I think nationally he is garnering attention, and he's one to watch.
Yeah.
And Lauren sent she shared a video with me this morning, and I thought it was extremely interesting. It starts off with Mandami asking common questions about elections. It started with him getting no responses, and it gradually went from there. This guy, Lauren, having said that, and which is what I commented back to you when you sent that video, why don't other politicians? Neil mentioned, we saw it with Obama. You see it with AOC. You see it with Jasmine Crockett. Even Bernie Sanders, you see it with. But most politicians don't do what Mandami has been doing. I just wonder if he's going to continue to do it when he's in office.
I think he probably will. Well, the reason that most politicians don't do it is that there's a funding issue. If you are the regular, if you're the person representing the blue collar person, the middle class, you got to find funding. You don't have to find funding when you're representing corporations. The funding is right there. Or if you represent or if you want to talk incessantly about a special interest, which several New York members of the New York delegation do, and that special interest funds you, no problem. You've got to find funding. We saw with Cori Bush, where, Nina Turner, when she ran for Congress in Ohio, there was a concerted effort to stop anyone who talked too much about poverty and these types of blue collar issues. Why is that? And the Democratic Party needs to answer that question. I was at an Abigail Spanberger stop in Annandale, Virginia the other day on Sunday, and Congressman Don Beyer was there and got up and said, Democrats have lost the working class. Well, they've got to figure out why that is as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you brought that up. In some of the elections that we will be watching today, of course, is New York. We have the race in Houston that who's going to replace Rep. Sylvester Turner. Of course, we're looking at California and Prop 50, but you brought it up, so let's jump into it. Virginia and New Jersey, a lot of eyes are going to be on those two states. Talk to us about why.
Well, there is, of course, the statewide elections in Virginia for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. And we are due to see a flip of all of those seats from Republican to Democrat. We have a Republican governor in Virginia and a Republican lieutenant governor. That lieutenant governor is running for governor, Winsome Earl Sears, and she is expected to lose by a big margin, by a margin of like 5 to 10% possibly. And if that happens, it's very likely that the Virginia House of Delegates, all 100 seats of which are on the ballot today, will gain several seats, maybe even about 10 for the Democratic Party. Right now, the breakdown in Virginia, it's a 100-seat member House of Delegates. That's 51-49 Democrat. And I suspect that by about 3 or 4 days from now, we're going to find out that breaks to about, 58, 59 seats for the Democrats, particularly if Abigail Spanberger gets, over 6, if she gets to 57 or 58. But what really everybody is looking at, of course, the attorney general's race between the sitting attorney general, Jason Miyares, and the challenger, former member of the House of Delegates, Jay Jones, primarily because Jay Jones had a controversy over a series of text messages written in 2020 to a Republican member of the House of Delegates, a friend of his, a good friend of his, I would say, back in 2022. And that became a thing. And of course, the Democrats that don't know how to message ceded the field to the Republicans and went dead silent for the first week of that situation, and are now suddenly starting to wake up to the fact that, wait a minute, it might be a bad idea to have a Republican attorney general at a time when we're seeing a lack of due process, a violation of the Constitution on a daily basis from the federal government.
What's the situation right now? What does the early polling looks like for Jay Jones? Has that hurt him at all?
Well, the early polls had him 5 and 6 ahead. When I say polling, I'm only really talking about 3 polls. I don't care about anybody else's polls except the ones that are typically accurate. That's the Washington Post, Schar Center at George Mason University. Number 2, Emerson. And number 3, the Wasson Center of Christopher Newport University and Newport News. Those 3 polls tend to be the most accurate. Everybody's got all their polls. There's all these little polls that come out. I would pay zero attention to any of them except those 3. Emerson, I think, was the most accurate 4 years ago. They've got Jay Jones ahead by like 2 points. Jay Jones was ahead by 5 or 6 points before October 3rd when the story about the text messages broke. And then we saw a bunch of polls that came out that I don't pay any attention to swing in the direction of Attorney General Jason Miyares. It would be very unusual. It's possible because Abigail Spanberger is running this Republican light campaign, and I don't want to criticize Donald Trump or say his name and all that. That's been her entire career. She came into Congress in 2018 when Trump was president, in that group of people that was sort of the anti-Trump Democrats. But at any rate, she's playing this sort of Republican light routine, as is Mikey Sherrill, who's going to probably come a lot closer, okay, than Abigail Spanberger. But at any rate, playing Republican light, it could be very complicating. You know, there's a theory that, well, some people will vote Republican on top, and then vote Democrat on top for Abigail, then vote Republican on the bottom. I don't see that. We've gotten the data in for early voting. It's exceeding 2021. That means a bunch of Democrats are showing up to give a big middle finger to Donald Trump. That should be good news for Jay Jones.
Right.
It should have been from the start with Jay Jones, right? I mean, I'm sorry to jump in, Niele, but that text message, as you said, even though it was a Republican, that was his good friend. How did that come out?
It came out because the Republicans were likely sitting there waiting for him to, because everyone knew he was going to announce the return. He'd already run for Attorney General 4 years ago against the sitting Democrat in the primary, Mark Herring. So everybody knew he was going to run for Attorney General again. That was no big secret. Anyway, they waited and then they dropped it. I mean, they dropped it right when the ballot was codified, you know? So, I mean, everybody knew that was happening. So they waited. I mean, again, to your point, if it was such a big deal and you're so scared of Jay Jones, which of course is completely ridiculous, Jay Jones is he's sort of a bougie black dude from Norfolk who's the son of 2 judges. I mean, this is the least likely person in the world to be violent about anything, you know? So that idea is ridiculous. And so they waited and then they dropped it.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Stephanie Morales. She's running to be, voted back in as district attorney for Portsmouth.
Yeah.
I
saw Stephanie, yeah. I saw her in Norfolk a week ago.
Yeah. And she's like she's one of the only few prosecutors that has prosecuted a police officer. And so wishing her well today. I want to jump into the chat. Orangey says, please get out and vote no matter what is on the ballot. Let your voice be heard. Vote in all elections. And David Youngblood says we need folks to sworn to the polls. That's why we're here this morning. Let's pivot over to I want to stay in Virginia because there's the talk. We talked about it a little bit last time you were here, but redistricting. How does today's election play into the future of redistricting in Virginia?
The governor, interestingly enough, I don't want to say it doesn't have anything to do with redistricting, but it really is the General Assembly. And they have a sort of a 5-step process in Virginia that I won't bore the audience with, but it involves changing the Virginia Constitution, which involves action before a preceding election, which is why you saw them do this before the 4th of November. They had to take action before the 4th of November, and then they have to take another action when they come into session in January. So without getting too into the weeds, I'll just say this. It is likely that they will be able to control the situation such that they will be redrawing the congressional seats in Virginia, specifically the 1st and the 2nd district, which is the district of Jen Kiggins in the 2nd district, which is Virginia Beach, and then Rob Whitman's district in the 1st, which is sort of central Virginia a little bit, and then off to the right, to the Atlantic Ocean. But I'll just say that, that's likely to happen. The Don Scott, who is the historic Black Speaker of the Virginia House, is on the phone, I suspect. I'm going to go ahead and guess with Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries has been talking to a series of people. You might have noticed this morning that Maryland Governor Wes Moore has suddenly announced a redistricting thing, So, I mean, that part of this was trying to get other states that are blue states to try to take action to get rid of any Republican that might be nearby. So at any rate, that's probably going to happen, and you're going to see some fireworks in early January.
So Lauren, let's before we go to New Jersey, she just flashed up the big race, the governor's race. Does Winsome Earl Sears have a chance here? A good chance?
Anyone on the ballot, I mean, it's you got to say this, anyone on the ballot has a chance. I mean, it's just like, if your name is on the ballot, you got a chance to win, Right. It would be very unusual and probably unprecedented. Although Congressman Byer did tell me in Annandale on Sunday that when he ran for lieutenant governor, he was Doug Wilder's lieutenant governor. Okay, which is always funny because when you see pictures of Doug Wilder at the inauguration, you see Don Byer, the congressman, standing right there. At any rate, he said all the polls were wrong about his race, had him 9 points behind. And he won. It was Virginia's lieutenant governor. Now, I think polling technology has gotten a lot better. It would be a stunner. It would be Dewey beats Truman if she were to win. It has been a weird race. It's one of these really boring, nobody really says anything. Everybody's trying to avoid saying anything on the Democratic side. So Abigail Spanberger spent the entire race not saying anything in any detail. So that was weird. And then I won't say that she's, the real thing everybody's trying to figure out is how Black voters are going to show up or not in places like Richmond and Hampton Roads. I would say that Abigail Spanberger did a pretty good job, at least showing up and doing what you need to do to at least appear like you are trying to get Black votes. She didn't just blow up. She didn't do a Mikey Sherrill, just not show up. You can't do that in a 20% Black state. So Abigail did a good job at, showing up at Norfolk State with the right color fans and, being at Virginia State at the thing. And she does know how to line dance. I watched a line dance at a gala and she's really good. They should have had that. They should have put that video out. Actually, I have the video. I should put it out. So she is, let's face it. I mean, she is the whitest woman in the world running in a very diverse state at a very diverse time. But at the same time, if she wins, a win is a win. I thought it was, one of the most boring campaigns I've ever seen, but you should get the credit because you figured out how to win. She's very lucky in her competition in this moment because Winsome Sears ran an exotic and eccentric campaign. And I'm not just saying that as a Black woman from Jamaica. It was an odd campaign.
It was the oddest campaign I'd ever seen.
Very much so. I wanted to know, you brought up Richmond, off the pocket question, but it might be important to Black America. I know Kathy Hughes at one time was pushing for a casino. Right. And she pushed for it for a couple years, had it on the ballot. Do you know where that stands? Is she still trying to get the casino open? I think it was called Casino One.
Right. Not that I know of. They're not trying. That was actually Churchill Downs. That was the money behind that. And they needed a Black partner to be able to market that, it's going to be a Black casino. This is not to say that Roger Liggins and Kathy Hughes were not involved, but they were sort of minority partner positioned when really Churchill Downs was the big money. And the mayor at the time was LeVar Stoney, who I will say I'm not a fan of, as in my involvement in Virginia politics for the Lieutenant Governor, Justin Fairfax. He was a frankly pain in the ass. But anyway, LeVar Stoney ran for Lieutenant Governor and lost. That casino was one of his projects. It failed because the people didn't want it. But there's a bunch of casinos popping up all over Virginia. Bristol, Norfolk is about to have one. And so, but the Richmond one that Kathy Hughes was involved in failed at the ballot on a ballot initiative and is unlikely to come back, but you never know.
Okay. So let's jump to New Jersey, Lauren. How's it shaping up there?
I've paid almost no attention to New Jersey other than to sort of look over and see that Abigail Spanberger's friend from Congress, Mikey Sherrill, is running, and then look over and see that you have some Black activists who have been unhappy. All right. They've written columns and caused, all sorts of commotion. No surprise. You guys might remember a few years back when the squad was at the pinnacle, and the squad, of course, is made up of Black and a Latina lady and 3 Black members of Congress. There was a piece that Dana Bash did called The Badasses, and the Badasses were these white women in Congress with these security, backgrounds. And Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger were those 2 people. It was one of the most ridiculous pieces of journalism I've seen in a long time, because I think they're just trying too hard to win the attention that AOC and these people win this attention because of issues, because they talk about things that people care about. So when Jasmine Crockett and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez do a live on Instagram, that blows up because they're talking about things that people care about. It doesn't blow up because of marketing, or there's this idea that, she's blowing up because she's savvy on social media. No, Bernie Sanders and these people are talking about things that corporate political types don't like talking about. And so, you know, Mikey Sherrill falls into this category of the Abigail Spanberger category. You're going to hear a lot after this election about, oh my God, the Democratic Party has found itself and we've got to run moderate Democrats. Get ready for that, because that's going to fall on its face pretty quickly, because the base is going to be like, and what do you got for us? But we'll see. I think Mikey Sherrill's going to win. And Jack Ciattarelli, how do you pronounce it?
Ciattarelli.
Ciattarelli. Okay, well, he ran before, as you know, and here we go again. I just think he's going to lose, but I think it is going to be closer.
Yeah, there's so before like let's sum up, you know, like we're looking at today. It's a huge day for elections, probably the biggest election day this year. At the end of the day, Lauren, whether it's Democrats that win, what does it look like for the future? Or if Republicans win, what does it look like for the future?
Well, I think the Democrats are going to win. This is a referendum on Donald Trump. There's no doubt about it. It is the mood of the country. It is the one way that voters can voice their dissent about what's going on in this country. And it is very likely that the Republicans on the ballot today are going to be punished, and they're going to be punished badly. I predict a sweep in Virginia. Even with all the drama of the Attorney General's race, when I get up from this interview, I'm going to drive to Henrico County and see Jay Jones at something. So I will just tell you that people are not stupid. You know, they understand that, you know, writing some controversial text message to a good friend of yours in private that is quoting the show The Office is not the same as tearing down the East Wing of the White House, violating the U.S. Constitution, and renditioning people to El Salvador. Those are two different planets, okay? And most people, and I don't know why the Democratic Party can't message that, most people understand that when they vote. They're not looking at all of these things, but the commercials as I don't know whether you can see it where you are, Stacy. Well, you know, you guys cannot probably see it where you are geographically, but the commercials would knock you out if you were in the, in the area of Virginia, D.C. or Maryland. Yeah. The commercials have been nonstop against Jay Jones. They have a way of vilifying Black elected officials that is epic. And parties got to figure out, Democrats got to wake up to the new technology and the new communications of this world. But I think this is going to be a wake-up call for the Republican Party.
I think
Lauren, which...
Oh, go ahead, Stacy.
Yeah, which of, if the Democrats win, when you look in Virginia, Jersey, New York, across the country, really, which has the chance, most likely, which Democrat you think, if any, has the most likely chance to be a John Fetterman or a Joe Manchin?
Hopefully nobody, but this dude up in Maine, you know, that they've forgiven, you know, oh, you've got a Nazi tattoo, no problem. I mean, you know, I think he's probably the most likely person. The Democratic Party has the thing of wanting to please everybody and not wanting to call a thing a thing. And on the other side, the Republicans have no problem throwing somebody out that becomes annoying. But I do think Fetterman's going to be primary. There's no doubt about that. He probably should have never gotten in there in the first place. The funny thing, I actually met him when he was a lieutenant governor. He's lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. Justin Fairfax was the chair of the Lieutenant Governors Association at one point. And so we met John Fetterman, who struck me as an average dude. And he's just become incredibly annoying. His entire brand has now become attacking the Democratic Party. Now, if you were mad at David Hogg for doing that, why aren't you mad at a sitting U.S. senator? Remember, the argument against David Hogg was, well, you can't attack us from the perch of the DNC. Well, why can he attack the party from the perch of being a sitting Democrat in the U.S. Senate? I don't know the answer to your question, Stacy, but there's always that whole thing is a push-pull to me of race. It is white Democrats not wanting to brand to the Black part of the Democratic Party and wanting to be just conservative enough or Trumpy enough to be able to tell voters, I'm not really with all of these people. Yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not really with these Black people on the left that are crazy that want to talk about socialism. That's always the game with white Democrats in this era.
Yeah, especially when you talk about Fetterman and you see him hanging out with Republicans in D.C., having dinner and conversations with Steve Bannon. That is definitely problematic. But before we let you go, I think you brought up a good point about Democrats and getting their talking points together, because they do, when you know, you were talking about the ads, they have a way of just painting Trump as the boogeyman. But to your point, when you talk about like the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett's, they go viral because they're talking about the cost of living. They're talking about healthcare. They're talking about immigration. They're talking about why representation matters. And like, I mean, I hope that the Democrats can figure that out sooner rather than later. Before we let you go, what other races are you going to be paying attention to today?
Oh, I'm paying attention to a bunch of races that almost nobody else would be paying attention to, which is a bunch of House races in Virginia. There's a
besides Virginia, I want you to outside of Virginia and New Jersey. What about Detroit? Are you looking at the mayor's race there?
No, I mean I'm looking at Prop 50. I'm not looking at Detroit. I'm barely looking at New Jersey. The only other thing I would look at outside of Virginia is New York, because of course my father was from New York. I grew up in New York. I was born in the Bronx. My mother is from Virginia, from Emporia. So I only really pay attention. I worked in Virginia politics and New York politics. I only pay attention to New York and Virginia, because to say that I'm an expert in Detroit would be ridiculous. I don't know nothing about Detroit other than the very basics, you know. And so I will pay attention to Mamdani and what percentage. And I'm convinced that Curtis Sliwa is going to be somebody that a lot of people are going to be angry at. You know, these people who run again and again and lose again and again are annoying. Okay. And I'm not a huge fan of Bill Ackman, but I get what Bill Ackman is saying. Even though I don't agree with Bill Ackman on a lot of things, he is a big donor, by the way, to the Innocence Project, which is actually a good thing. At any rate, Curtis Sliwa, the percentage that he gets tonight is something to watch. The percentage of victory for Mamdani is going to be very interesting to watch. But I do think Cuomo is going to put up a number that is impressive. And full disclosure, I did vote for Andrew Cuomo twice. I used to vote in New York. So when he ran for governor the first two times, I voted for him. And my mother used to work in state politics. We knew his father. So there's a lot of kinship there, even though I know people don't like his personality. I'm one of the people who tends to think the Democrats need a few ass kickers. They need a few people that you would be scared to have date your daughter, you know, because it's like building a football team. Not everybody can be a member of the, you know, Vienna Boys Choir. You know, we live in the age of Trump, and the age of Trump, you need a few people that are ruthless. And Andrew Cuomo is that guy, but progressives want the warm, fuzzy embrace of Mamdani. I get it, because as somebody who I'm part of a team that pays taxes on a large property in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm telling you that it is not easy at all. And my, grandmother bought it again when it was a single-family house. It's unthinkable now that you can buy a piece of property in New York. That should not be the case. Should not be the case.
Well, let me just say this: Andrew is nothing like his father. His father was a different breed. His father was an awesome dude by all appearances.
I got you.
I lived under Mario, and Mario was a different breed. But before we let you go, you got to get your Mario was unbelievable.
He was.
You got to get your thoughts on Dick Cheney. Died at the age of 84 yesterday. Anything you want to say about Dick Cheney?
Well, the best thing about Dick Cheney, of course, is his daughter, Lynn Cheney. Dick Cheney, of course, was one of the most dominant vice presidents in American history. He might have even been the most dominant vice president, because he had kind of a goofball president as his partner in George W. Bush. And, you know, from a personal experience, I had some really good personal experiences with George W. Bush. He was actually a very nice dude and very affable and very connecting. You know, it is weird that we get this news on election day, although apparently he did die last night. But yeah, he's a historic vice president. I mean, you go down in history as one of the most influential vice presidents in terms of influencing the president that he was serving. My favorite personal story goes back to when in my other life, I used to be a photographer for Associated Press. And you remember the famous story with Dick Cheney where he shot the friend on the hunting trip, shot the friend in the face, and he shows up in Washington and basically hides for like 2 or 3 days, and nobody can get a photo of him. And he walks into the Capitol, and I'm in some back hallway, and I run right into him and take a photo that ends up on the cover of the New York Daily News and all this, New York Daily News and the New York Times. It was crazy. And that kind of won me. I was a freelancer for AP, so you're not supposed to be able to get that as a freelancer. So all my colleagues at AP were angry, other than the editors. They were thrilled. But Dick Cheney just sort of looked at the camera and smiled. kept walking down the hall. He was obviously kind of this cold figure that we see in Russian spy novels, but certainly when that first biography comes out, we're going to learn, probably if we haven't already, about how powerful he was. He was huge character in terms of American politics, understanding how to control power. And, it was for good and for bad at times, as we know.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, we got to have you back for post to see, what happened at the end of the day. So thank you for joining us this morning and updating us.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be on Roland Martin tonight at I think 8:00. He's going to be on from 8 to midnight, but I will be in Richmond before that. And there's nothing more enjoyable, I don't care what anyone says in politics, than being at a losing party. This is going to be a winning party. But I've been at losing parties, and I don't care what anybody says. That's way more entertaining. It's great seeing you guys. I will throw the video out there, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
All right, Lauren. Thanks as always.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, so we were just on the East Coast. Now let's head to the West Coast with journalist and political strategist Jasmine Canick. Why don't you come on into the conversation? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Now I looked at your pronouns are try and me.
Yes.
That's hilarious. And you say you're politically.
But don't do that before coffee.
Oh, do you have your coffee? All right. So Jasmine, we were just on the East Coast talking about New Jersey, New York, what's happening in Virginia. Now let's talk about what's happening with Prop 50. What's the word on the street? What are voters saying here on the West Coast?
Okay, voters are still trying to figure out what it is and why we need it. That's not good. As a political strategist, I can tell you that not a lot of money was put into a ground campaign for Prop 50. And I think because most people didn't even know we had an independent redistricting commission, let alone know what redistricting is or the significance and importance of it, and how it plays into the national story of politics that's playing out right now, I think that the Democrats really should have invested that money. What I've seen in the last week is a lot of money being dumped into digital and a lot of money being dumped into radio and some television. But we had quite some time to do a campaign. And I can tell you, as someone who designs political mail, reads political mail, sometimes saves it, I judge political mail on what I think is good and what I think is bad. I got 5 pieces of no on Prop 50 and 0 pieces on yes on Prop 50. And I think for me, even in 2025, when you know your high propensity voters, the voters that you know are going to turn out every single election tend to skew older, they still want that piece of mail. And I just thought, this is pretty risky. Just basically dumping most of your money in digital, and I think hoping on vibes and goodwill, just say it's against Trump and folks will show up. Look, Californians have a hard time showing up for regularly scheduled elections, let alone a special election. So it'll be interesting. All the polling numbers are saying that it's going to pass. I'm still not convinced everybody knows what it does, or what it can do rather, but it's going in the right direction.
Wow. David Youngblood is asking, is a sweep in the offing in California? How are you seeing this right now, Jasmine?
A sweep?
A sweep. Democrats winning everything.
So I don't know
to
what
win.
I don't know what a sweep would be, because this is a special election. So there is Prop 50.
That's
there's no Prop 51, no Prop
it.
52, no governor, no sheriff. So, but what people do need to understand is that it's a long way from bended knee to the altar. If voters do approve Prop 50, that's just half the battle. They still have to show up in 2026 to flip those seats blue, right? This is just paving the way for Democrats to possibly pick up 5 seats. Folks still got to run campaigns in those areas and win those seats. This is not handing Democrats 5 seats. And so, folks, this is not the end. You know, you still have to show up in 2026, which is going to be a pivotal election across the country, not only in California.
Right. So, Jasmine, what I love about you is you always localize politics. And so we have 39 states. We have 53,000 elections that are happening on a local and state level. Talk to us about, Stacy will tell you, I'm always talking about how the change is going to happen on a local and state level. But talk to us about why today state and local elections are happening all across the country. Talk about why today is so important to citizens in this nation.
So first of all, every election day is important. You should know your zip code. You should know the zip code that you live in. If you know what is going on in DC, but do not know what is going on at your city hall, with your county government, with your state government, you got a problem, okay? Voting is not the only answer to our problems and issues in this country as Black folks, but it is one way that we participate and one way that we can help in this particular age and time save our democracy. And that means at all levels. Right now, what you have is, look, I'm a delegate in the Democratic Party, so I'm not going to speak to you bipartisanly. I'm not going to speak to you on behalf of Republicans because I could care less. But I will say that you have a lot of MAGA Republicans who understand their assignment, and their assignment is to infiltrate the water board, infiltrate the school board, infiltrate the college board, take up those council seats, get into the mayor's office, get into the legislature. And so folks need to understand that, yes, a lot of those offices, all of those offices are nonpartisan, but they're partisan, And so when you find yourself with a new majority of MAGA Republicans on your school board, that's how you all of a sudden have these crazy policies about trans students and banning books and, things like that. Or on the water board, all of a sudden they want to strip out, the process to clean your water because they think it's irrelevant and it's a hoax, So you've got to pay attention to what's going on locally. And as I love to tell people or remind folks, whatever happens in your zip code, whatever happens at your city hall or your county government, it's going to affect you way sooner. When they raise my LADWP bill down at City Hall, trust me, I feel that a lot sooner than anything coming out of Washington, D.C. Now, what's coming out of Washington is going to affect me, but you raising my property taxes, you raising my water bill, my light bill, my trash bill, that affects me immediately.
Now I want to quickly go back to Prop 50 and the, like you said, the lack of groundwork. How are folks getting this information? What is the best way that this information has gone out? Because it's concerning. I see it in the chat that when you said that there's been no real ground game.
Look, it's hard for me a little bit because I'm such an informed voter, right? I'm one of those people that pay attention. And so I have to step outside of Jasmine into the mindset of someone who is just la-di-da-di-da through life and politics. And I don't know how you do that right now. But I guess, the fact that everyone has a phone in their hands, I'm not saying that doing the digital campaign was a bad idea. All I'm saying is that I think it started a little too late. And I think that's one way that they're hoping to reach folks. They've held a number of rallies. I know over the weekend, Jasmine Crockett was here in California helping the campaign. Folks tend to look to people like myself and other folks that they trust to tell them how to vote. I try to tell you how to vote, but also break it down for you so you at least know what you're voting on, because I don't want people to vote and not knowing exactly what they're doing. So I wish it would have been more. I'm not terribly concerned because it's California. Right. And if just a sliver of us show up, we will outnumber the no's. There were, I've done a lot of media over the past week around Prop 50, a lot of Black media in particular. And, a lot of there's some Black folks calling in and screaming that this doesn't help Black people. This just gets more, people who are non-Black in the office. Well, first of all, let's be clear, there are no all-Black districts in California. Okay, they priced us out of the state, priced us out of our neighborhoods. That really doesn't exist anymore. So anywhere a Black candidate runs, they're going to need the votes of folks other than Black folks. Okay. And I've heard that Prop 50 doesn't help democracy, or it doesn't help Black people, rather. It only helps the Democrats. Well, let's be clear, over 80% of Black folks are registered Democrats in this country. So that argument doesn't jive at all. But when you talk about the national landscape and the fact that we have a president who is doing mid-decade redistricting, trying to pick up extra seats so they can get that basic supermajority in both the House and the Senate so that they never need another Democratic vote for anything. I think if California can pave the way to pick up 5 additional seats to offset the seats that are being made up in Texas and other red states, we are absolutely helping Black people. Absolutely.
I love that. Before we let you get out of here, I want to get your thoughts on what's happening in New York. And I want to get your thoughts on Mandami. What do you think about him? What do you think about his future? Talk to us about your thoughts.
I've been watching what's happening in New York. I was in New York earlier this year. I've watched all year the campaigns that have been started and ended. And I find it really interesting. I guess the part that I find really interesting about this particular race is, one, it's local, but its implications on the Democratic Party and the future of the Democratic Party. So there are a lot of old school Democrats who don't like him, don't like his politics, yet and still they like the fact that he has energized a base of voters that normally doesn't get involved, doesn't come out. Well, that base of voters is the future of the Democratic Party, and so is he, because that is the direction that folks want to go. Folks are hot about things right now, and plug in now because I say it everywhere I go. If any Democrat in the House votes with MAGA to cut our health care, in Cardi B's infamous words, we will have beef forever. I am not supporting folks who do that, re-electing folks, none. And that is the attitude that a lot of folks who support Mandami have, and that is that's the attitude that a lot of folks have across the country. It is a changing time. People get older, the party is changing. We are tired of this sort of old guard, bring a hug to a knife fight attitude, this kumbaya, this, if they, go low, we go high. No, if they go low, we scorch the ground, we go to hell, we drag them down there with us. That is the attitude a lot of folks have. And so I find it interesting that the Democratic Party has pushed back so much against this man, but want his base to be their base, but it doesn't work that way, because you have to have their politics and understand where they're coming from. So I love to see it. I love to see when a local race has such far-reaching implications for the Democratic Party. That's a mayoral race. That's not a race for Congress. That's not a race for the Senate. And folks are showing up and turning out, and I love to see it.
Awesome. Well, Jasmine, thank you so much. This has been helpful, a whole lot helpful.
Right. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. It's always great to see you both. Niele, thanks for reaching out and having me on this morning, and great to see you, Stacy.
Great to see you as well.
Peace and love. We have a few more headlines to get through. Stacy, you want to go one for one? You do one, I do one?
Well, sure.
Let's do that.
Well, that's good, because the Trump administration will send only partial food stamp payments this month to roughly 42 million Americans who receive the benefits under the SNAP program. It's a temporary reprieve to low-income families based on a judge's ruling on Monday. So they're going to have to open up and send some. It's not the full benefits, Niele, but it's something.
I still need more clarity with that statement. Who are how does that what does some mean? Does that mean like some they get half? Does it mean they get it all for the month? Does that mean how long are they going to have to wait? There's just no explanation. So I need more details to this story than just we're going to release some of it. What does that mean? How does that work? people need to know. Thanksgiving is this month. People have to be fed. What does some mean?
Yep.
What
They have
does
left
that mean?
all of those. They have left all those blanks, and that is why it's so important that you have governors like Westmore and other governors who have said
Gavin
we
Newsom,
Gavin Newsom, we are going to
Hochul.
fill in the gap there. So they're not saying if a person is getting $200 now, they're going to get 100, they're going to get 50, $25. Well, whatever that difference is, you have these Democratic governors who are filling in the rest.
And you have the mayors, like if you look at what Andrew Dickens is doing, he's not, filling in the gap for the SNAP, but he's also saying that you can't be evicted or your water can't be shut off until January 31. And so it goes back to state and local. State and local is what's preserving this nation right now. And let's head to Texas, where Texas lawmakers are advancing legislation to eliminate the Texas Workforce Commission for Civil Rights Division. Now, the division is responsible for investigating claims of housing, employment, and public accommodation discrimination. Now, if the bill passes, Texas would be a standalone state without civil rights enforcement agency. And so when you look at this, here we go again. This is how the Voting Rights Act started on a state level. It reached the Supreme Court. And here we are with Section 2 about to be gutted, right? And so now, here we go again. Now we're with civil rights, because we know at first it was Civil Rights Act of 1964, then the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So they're coming after our civil rights and our voting rights, and they keep going. And so when we look at elections that are happening today, it's so important that we pay attention to who we're putting in as our state legislators.
And Orange G does make a great point. He says, don't forget about the majority of Black people and Black voters that live in the South. All he's hearing is about New York and Virginia. They have elections down South too, and it is true. You got some races throughout the South that folks are paying attention to. We haven't highlighted them, perhaps because of the volatile nature of the Virginia race and the New York race, mayoral race, particularly the mayoral race in New York, and it kind of gives you the microcosm of what, and Jasmine was talking about it, the Democratic Party, this need to pivot into something else. Perhaps that's just one reason, RNG is not, it shouldn't be an excuse. We have to keep our eyes on all of that, because we do have folks interested in the South too, like yourself.
Right. Well, we know in Texas that today on the ballot, Rep. Sylvester Turner's seat, which was formerly held by the late Sheila Jackson Lee, who was a real big advocate for reparations with our HR 40. That seat is on the ballot today. And we know that we had Isaiah, who's the youngest millennial running for that seat. And then we had Yolanda Jones, who was one of the legislators that left Texas when they were doing their redistricting. So that is a key seat that people are paying attention to. And the waters are muddied in Texas because they passed that redistricting, which was why we have a Prop 50. So we are watching what's happening in Houston. We're watching the mayor's race. Ash, I think her name is Sharon. Is her name Sharon? I'm trying to get her on the show. But she is poised to be the first African-American female to be the mayor of Detroit. So Detroit is one to watch as well. We're paying attention to all of them. These are just like the standout races that I guess have national attention to
Dr. Jones says, it just blows me away that these people, Trump, Mike Johnson, they tried to get away with this, and it took the courts to say, no, you are not allowed to do this. Yeah, absolutely. Other news, I have found it very interesting because Rachel Maddow, who's always been outspoken, she blasted Donald Trump for sympathizing with Prince Andrew and his family after he lost his titles over his links to Jeffrey Epstein. The anchor, she just skewered him because the fact that Donald Trump said about Prince Andrew losing his royal titles. He said, quote, "I feel very bad. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation, and it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family." And Rachel Maddow went in on him. She says, to be clear, Trump is not talking about the families of the kids who were molested and raped by his friend Jeffrey Epstein. He is talking about how sad he is that another one of Epstein's friends got in trouble with his own family for being part of it.
Yeah.
Just skewered. And she's right. No empathy, sympathy, or anything for the victims, but the perpetrators, I feel bad for them.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify, her name is Mary Sheffield, who's running for mayor in Detroit, and she's poised to take that seat. I just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, Donald Trump says stupid shit all the time. It's just, you know, I mean, we'd be calling him out 24 hours a day for all the dumb stuff that he says, and just, you know, out of pocket, out of touch. That's why today is so important, because today can really send a message to Donald Trump and the Republican Party that the American people are not happy with what they're doing, and that the American people as a whole are saying no. That's why today is so important. That's why every vote matters, to send him a message and his clan that America is not with it. Is not with it.
Looks like we have a Mandami supporter or fan in the chat. Whoever is using Persian /V4B has Mamdami's photo as their as their screen photo. So
all right. And last story for today, why things matter, because we had got past these Confederate monuments. We were tearing them down. Now, under a Trump clan administration, they're coming back up. And I'm talking about the Confederate monuments that was once toppled by protesters in 2020. It's being returned to its place in Washington, D.C. Now, the statue of Albert Pike, a Confederate general and Arkansas Supreme Court justice, has been restored as part of a larger federal initiative. Now, if we don't want these things to come back and we want them to stop, we know what we got to do today.
Yeah, there's one up that came back in Washington as well. They're coming back, and who knows what's going to happen a few years from now if they are able to get Trump and MAGA out of office. Then you'll perhaps see them toppled again. So it's just this country is in trouble. That's all I gotta say. Why bring this stuff back? Because they bring it back, you know, to show that they think that their hate is winning. That's the whole thing.
Right. Well, today is the day to show them that it's not.
All right, folks. Well, some Black history facts. On this date in 1872, 3 Black people were elected to major offices in Louisiana elections. See, there you go, RNG. C.C. Antoine was the lieutenant governor. P.G. Desaland was the secretary of state. And W.B. Brown was elected superintendent of public education. This is on this date in 1872. And you think about 1872, wow, to have 3 Black folks there in Louisiana win an election. Wow, you talk about a minor miracle right there.
Right. And we're talking about state and local elections. How that's beautiful. We're talking about state and local elections, and here we have in 1872, Black people were still moving forward and in politics. I think that is a great way to end. And then let's jump to 2008, where on this day, Barack Obama was elected president of the United States of America. And so from 1872 to 2008, we still continue to rise. So let's get out there. Let's get out the vote today. 39 states, 53,000 elections. Everything is on the ballot. So let's make our voices heard today, Stacy.
Yeah. Oh, and real quick, as a side note, folks, as before we close out, many might who watch this program might remember Dr. Ebony Hilton, who used to who would sometimes come on during the COVID, a lot of times come on during COVID to give us some good direction or whatever. Well, Dr. Hilton just had twin girls, so congratulations to Dr. Ebony Hilton, and they are beautiful. She showed me a picture of them, absolutely gorgeous, from the University of Virginia Medical Center. She is two twin girls and just absolutely adorable.
I hope she got her
Congratulations.
ballot in. I hope she was able to absent
Oh,
vote before.
let me tell you something. Dr. Hilton, we had Jasmine Cannick on this now. She's as much as a forceful advocate and activist as our esteemed guest. So yeah, I'm pretty sure she did what she had to do, is what I'm saying. But our Black-owned newspaper of the day is Insight News. It started in 1974 as a color cover magazine based in and serving Minneapolis's African-American North Side. Today, Insight News is widely considered the community journal for news, business, and the arts, and it serves St. Paul, Minneapolis, African-American community.
All right, you guys, and for the latest in Black news and all things election, you definitely want to check out BlackPressUSA.com. And if you have any problems at the polls or going to vote, the number you should call is 866-R-VOTE. That's 866-R-VOTE. If you have any problems voting today, we'll be back tomorrow with the post show of what happens today, y'all.
And we will see you tomorrow, folks. Thanks for joining us.